Imagine a young man he works. He's single, and he's in the parsha. He works at a reasonably large firm, and there's a young woman there who's very attractive, blonde, tall, and they sort of catch each other's eyes, and they speak every once in a while. And she's just so amazed by his maturity, his sobriety. He's so different than all the guys she knew in college, and she's just fawning all over him. And the compliments sort of flow back and forth, and they do sort of catch each other's eye in the hall. And before you know it, our superhero is gone. Woo! Infatuated, madly, passionately infatuated. So that's it. He found the right one. He should marry her, right? Only one little problem. Her name is Chris McCormick, and she's Catholic. But the criteria of love, it tells me who the right one is, right? It doesn't work. It's not true. It's not based. It's not real. It has no reality. It's good for Hollywood, for the fantasy movies, for the Disney Channel, for the fairy tales. But in reality, it's a terrible criteria for selection. And if you're going to rely on your wisdom, your acumen, your knowledge of human beings, and I'm going to find the right match, I wish you bracha, but I don't believe you're going to succeed because no human being has that kind of wisdom. Shlomo Melech didn't have that kind of wisdom to be able to predict the future, to know where he's going to be, to know the opposite gender, to know what exactly it is that he needs in the opposite side. So both of those are going to fail. So I believe that if you're rational and very clearly thinking, you'll quickly realize that trusting my judgment to choose my spouse is a very poor choice. Okay, so that's it. I get it. Hashem chooses, and I'm going to rely on Hashem. But still, I can keep my list, Rabbi, right? Listen, after all, don't I have to do ishtadlus? I get it. Before I was created, Hashem said this is the right person for me. But I got to find her. I got to find the right one, right? We're obligated to go in the derech hatev, in the ways of the world, right? To earn a living, I get a job. To stay healthy, I eat right. And I exercise, right? So to find my basher, what do? I do my ishtadlus. So I made my list, and that's exactly my ishtadlus. I'm going to find the one that matches all the criteria on my list, and that's a perfect ishtadlus. And then Hashem will bring me my basher, right? I don't think so. And I'd like to share with you why that is a terrible, terrible ishtadlus. If you're going to say, I get it, that Hashem is the one who runs the world, then you have to do a ishtadlus that's the right kind of ishtadlus and not the wrong kind of ishtadlus. Let me explain to you what I mean. Imagine you have a young woman who lives in Borough Park and she has a tough time getting dates. And she says to herself, this isn't working. That's not working. I'm just not getting dates. So she gets on a plane and flies out to Japan and decides to spend a couple of years there. And you say to her, why are you going to Japan? She says, listen, in Borough Park, there are tons of girls. There's way too much competition. I'll go to Japan. There's not a single frum girl there. So obviously there's no competition. It'll be great. I'll have every guy I possibly need, and I'll get married real quick. Madam, I'm sorry to tell you, you're right. There are probably no frum young women there, but there are probably also no frum guys there. And that's a terrible ishtadlus. If you're going to put yourself in a place where there are no frum guys, don't have complaints against Hashem, because that's a terrible ishtadlus. You see, your ishtadlus has to be according to the ways of the world, with wisdom, with understanding. You have to use your intelligence, and you have to select based on the way Hashem wants you to select. So would you like to know how you're going to choose the right one, the one that Hashem selected for you? You have to use the criteria that is set out by Chazal, by Hashem, as a criteria for finding the right one. So let's sort of begin with the following interesting question. What is the single most important ingredient for a marriage to be successful? If you were to ask wise people, let's say you were to ask people who are really grounded and they've studied marriages and they've been around for a while, if you were to ask them what is the single most important ingredient that a couple has to have for them to be happily, successfully married? So I suspect you're going to get a number of answers. One answer is going to be respect. A couple have to respect each other. Another answer is appreciation. They have to appreciate each other. Okay. Another answer will be good midos. Listen, you got to be kind and giving. And okay. Another answer may be friendship, commitment. Another answer is romance. They have to spend time together as a couple. Now, I'd like to share with you that all of those are very important to a marriage, and all of them are very, very needed, but not a single one of them is the main ingredient. Would you like to know what the main ingredient that a couple must have, and it's absolutely vital, it's absolutely the single most important one? Well, let's start with a little different question, and we'll see the answer to that. If I were to ask you, what is the biggest cause of divorce today? What's the biggest cause? So here, too, you'll probably find quite a number of answers. Well, it's going to be problems with money, problems with in-laws, maybe how to raise the kids, maybe education, what schools to send them to. There's going to be, a lot of issues, and those issues are what's going to cause divorce. Well, I'd like to share with you, not a single one of them is correct. Not a single couple gets divorced because of the in-laws or money or religion or what school to send the kids to. How do I know that's true? Well, I'll share with you how I know it's true. 70% of successfully married couples have an irreconcilable difference. An irreconcilable difference means a type of difference that can't be reconciled. There is no solution. For instance, he has a business in New York City, and she has allergies and needs to live in San Diego. You can't live in Chicago. There is no middle ground. There's no compromise. She wants to send the kids to a yeshiva, Hasidic yeshiva, and he wants them to be in a Litvish yeshiva. You can't send the kids around with payas on one side and not on the other. 70% of marriages have at least one irreconcilable difference, whether it's he wants to save for the future and she wants to buy a house now. She wants 10 kids and he's satisfied with 5. There are very real differences, and yet those couples remain successfully, happily married. Do you know why? Because two reasonable people, even with differences, find a compromise. Your way, my way, partway in the middle. If we can, we can't. We're able to work things out. Would you like to know the biggest cause of divorce in the Western world today? It's something called fighting. You see, it's not the in-laws, it's not the money, it's not the kids' education. It's fighting about the issues. It's the my toes are stepped on, your toes are stepped on. It's my ego's bruised, your feelings are hurt. And that's what causes all of the strife. It's never the issues. It's the fighting over the issues. And I'd like to share with you the single most important ingredient in a successful marriage, and that is for the couple to be compatible, for them to be a proper good match. But don't misunderstand compatibility. Don't misunderstand compatibility as a light thing. You see, when the couple are made for each other, then all those other things, the respect, the appreciation, the romantic love, allows them to foster a bond of love and attachment, and they live peacefully, harmoniously together. If they're not compatible, if they're just different by nature and by temperament, but in a way that doesn't allow them to gel, all of the respect, all the appreciation, everything that you put into it doesn't work because they're not made for each other. And compatibility doesn't mean that they have the same interests. It doesn't mean that they love the same flavor ice cream. Compatibility is a very deep, very difficult to define issue. You see, men and women are going to be different, and yet they could be completely compatible. And they may not even share the same interests. As an interesting aside, when I was newly married, it was coming closer to summer, so we decided to take a few days vacation. So I said to my wife, why don't we go fishing? It'd be a nice thing to do together. So my wife's a good sport. She said, sure, let's go. So we went out fishing, and after 20 minutes, my wife said to me, are we done? I quickly discovered that, guess what? We don't share the same interest in fishing. And a couple doesn't have to have the same political interests. They don't have to enjoy the same activities. They could be very, very different. But there's an innate compatibility to say that it just, somehow it works. They fit together. There's a natural sort of connection, and it sort of fits. Well, but gee golly, how do you know that? How could you tell that? If it's not interest, if it's not what they read, if it's not what they talk, how could you tell? And I'd like to share with you there's only one way to tell. And that's to use the system the way Chazal set it out, Hashem wants us to use. You go out and you take the Basher test. You take the paper test. The paper test is to see on paper, are you two looking for about the same sort of lifestyle? Are you looking to raise kids in approximately the same way? Are you looking to build a home in about the same sort of place? Meaning to say, in big, broad brushstrokes, are you looking for the same sort of life? Are you holding the same place in life? That's the paper test. Then you take the Basher test. The Basher test is an incredibly intuitive, instinctive system. And you go out and you see if you're compatible. How do you know? You know because the conversations flow. You enjoy our company. It just seems to be going the right way. You look forward to the dates. You see, Hashem put within you a supercomputer, not your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is pretty quick. It processes data at about 2,000 bits a second. But your subconscious mind processes information at 2 billion bits a second. It's that sort of feeling that it just feels right. It's your inner voice that says, I don't know why. I enjoy our company. It just seems to be going the right way. I look forward to the dates. It just feels that it's right. That's the sign. And that's the neon light from Shemayim. That's Eliyahu Navi coming to tell you that this is the one that you are compatible with. This is the right one. Does it guarantee you'll be happily married? Oh, no, you have a lot of work to do. And once you get married, you work on the bond of love. You work on being dedicated to each other. You work on romance. You spend a lot of time as a married couple developing that bond of love, but you know you found the right one. You know that this is the one that Hashem chose for you. This is the one that Hashem deemed is correct for you. And now you build together a house. You build that bond of love and attachment, and you know that Hashem delivered the right one to you. But that system doesn't include any lists. Because compatibility is not measured by money, how tall he is, how thin she is, how much. It's not measured by any of those issues. It's the most instinctive, intuitive thing. And if you say, well, I have to have, I won't compromise, well, I wish you a lot of siyata d'shmaya. I wish you a lot of luck, because you might be single for a good long time. You see, there is no guarantee that the guy you're going to marry is rich. Hashem determines how much money you are to have. Before you were born, each person has a different station in life, a different life setting. It could be you were destined to marry a very wealthy person. Could be not. It could be the woman that you were slated to marry is drop-dead gorgeous, and could be not. Do you have to be attracted? Yes, absolutely. But don't allow other people's version of what's attractive or not fool you. Many a time I've dealt with young men and young women who would be attracted, but they don't allow it to happen because I need a trophy wife. I need the kind of wife I'll bring home and my buddies and my brothers and everyone will say, whoa, she's gorgeous. I need my mother to say, wow, she's so slim. Wow. And many a time a young man or young woman would be attracted, but they don't allow it to happen. Put the lists away. Maybe in an envelope for 5 years from now for Purim to laugh. But don't bring them on the date. Don't use them before the date. Ignore them. Throw them in the trash. Because you have to understand you're not looking for a listed item. You're not looking for your Mr. Potato Head that you made. You're looking for your Bashert, the one that Hashem deemed is appropriate, the one that Hashem determined. How do you know? There's the paper test. You see on paper if you're looking for the same kind of lifestyle. You take the Basher test. You see if you're compatible, if it's the right one. And when that happens, you know it's the right one. Even if he doesn't meet this criteria, that criteria, because those lists are foolish. They're not a good ishtadlus. They're just stopping you from finding the right one. Now, if you say to me, doesn't a person have a right to say, I think I need this and this? So there is a concept called a filter. A filter means if you're a young man and you have 5 resumes in front of you, and it happens to be you're very extroverted, and you feel that you need a very lively girl, and one of them is lively, as a filter as to which one to go out with first, it's okay to use that as a filter. But when you get on the date, you put away your preconceived notions. You don't know anything. I don't know myself. I don't know this person. All I'm here to see is one thing. Does it work? Is there sort of a natural connection? Does it just sort of seem to fit? Does it just seem to be going in the right way? I don't know what I need. I fundamentally don't know what my spouse is supposed to look like, nor how she's supposed to speak. She's supposed to be tall or short or whatever. I'm going out to see one thing. Is this the one that Hashem determined, is the correct one for me? How do I tell? Really, it's quite simple. It's that intuitive, instinctive sense. And I'm sorry to share with you that most people do not use this. Most people use the system as if they run the world. It's up to me. I have to pick the right one. I have to decide. So I'm going to use the romance system, right? The falling in love system. The if I fall in love, whoa, it's the right one. Good luck, because infatuation is a very poor criteria for selection. You could end up being infatuated and find out 6 months later that you got yourself into something you never dreamt about. Criteria for selection can never be a drugged out state of euphoria, because what you're saying is, I'm giving myself over to a drunk state. If I become drunk, then she's the right one. It's like saying, we'll go to a bar and I'll drink 10 beers. And if I get drunk, I'll know that she's the right one. Very nice. But it really doesn't tell you anything other than you fell. You could fall for a Jewish woman. You could fall for a Gentile woman. A very fine young woman could be impressed with a Gentile. Infatuation is just a mechanism that happens. We're attracted, and it doesn't mean anything other than you're attracted to that person. If you're going to rely on your own wisdom and acumen, I'd like to share with you, I don't think you're going to do very well. If I challenge you to tell me how smart you are, I'll offer you one little challenge, and you tell me if you'll succeed. You see, let's say you decided that you want to make a lot of money. I have a very simple way for you to make a fortune of money. All you have to do is go to Wall Street and pick right 51% of the time. If you're able to select the right stocks that are going to go up in the next week, 51% of the time, you'll make a fortune of money. If you could pick the stocks that are going up in the next 3 months, next 6 months, if you could be right 51% of the time, you'll be phenomenally wealthy. It'll be incredible the amount of money you'll make. So why is it that most people aren't phenomenally wealthy? Why aren't they making money hand over fist investing in the stock market? The answer is because choosing the right stock 51% of the time isn't too easy. Because predicting the future and knowing which company is really going to go up and which sales are indicative of future growth and which ones aren't isn't such a simple thing. So here's the point. If you're not able to select stocks 51% of the time correctly, what are the odds that you're, with your wisdom, going to pick the right person? You don't need to be right 51% of the time. You need to be right 100% of the time. See, you get one shot. You're going to pick one person out of the 25,000 or 50,000 eligible people. Keep in mind, it's not just one girl in Brooklyn who's within your pool of eligible people. It's Brooklyn, it's LA, it's Eretz Yisrael. There are thousands and thousands. For every young man, for every young woman, there are probably 25,000, maybe 50,000 eligible people. What are the odds that with your wisdom, your understanding, you're going to meet through and sort through all of the eligible people and pick the one needle in the haystack? It's not 51%. It's a lot less than that. And you got to get it right this one time and stick with it for the rest of your life. I think you quickly understand the infatuation system is a poor system of going out, a poor selection criteria. The I know what I need and I'll choose her is even worse. What a person has to come to understand is that some jobs are just better left to Hashem. Hashem is far better than I at knowing what I need. Hashem is far better than I at creating for me the right person. My job is to do my shtadlus. I know that Hashem deemed an appropriate person for me. I'm out there looking for that person, and I'm relying on Hashem to guide me properly. I do the paper test to make sure that we're holding the same place. I do some research to make sure that what I see on the dates is what I get. There's no mental instability. There's no background trauma or skeletons in the closet that will later affect this person in a way of being a spouse or a parent. Once I've done the paper test, then I take the Bashar test. I see, are we compatible? Does it just work? Do the conversations flow? Do I enjoy our company? Second date, the third date, it increases. Do I look forward to the dates? Does it keep on getting to a better place? When she passes the paper test, when she passes the Bashar test, you then know that Hashem has brought you to the right one. Hashem runs the world, every part of the world. Hashem determines how much money I make. Hashem determines how long I live. And Hashem chose for me the right one. Hashem didn't leave me to the abandoned. As if Hashem would say, yes, I'll choose for you the right one, but go find it yourself. You're on your own. Only 7 billion people on the planet. You go sort through yourself. Go find her. You don't have the tools? Don't worry about it. Figure it out. You don't have the capacity? Too bad. Tough luck. Go find her. That's not the way Hashem runs the world. Hashem is intimately involved in the running of the world. That's the basics of our emunah system, that Hashem is the borei umanig. Hashem is the one who created and runs the world. Hu levado asa osa v'yasa. He alone does every activity on the planet. Do you have free will? Absolutely. You could walk by your bashert and say no. Hashem doesn't handcuff you to any solution. Hashem doesn't handcuff you to any result. You're free to select, you're free to choose, and you're free to make a mistake. And I'm sorry to tell you that many a time I speak to older singles and I fish a little bit. I sort of get the history. And almost every time I find the person they passed up. And it's so obvious to me on the outside. It's so clear that that was their bashert. But, so why'd you drop her? Did you enjoy her company? Absolutely. Did you look forward to the date? Sure. Did it keep increasing? Absolutely. So what happened? Well, she had a temper. And everyone knows a woman with a temper. I don't want that. So I dropped her. Well, I got news for you. It could well be that your bashert has a temper. There are many fine women, many fine mothers who have a temper. You probably also have flaws. Does that mean she's not the right one for you? I would be hard-pressed to believe that, because the only way that your spouse can be someone who has no flaws would be if you're perfect. And it could well be that he's lazy. How can I marry a guy who's lazy? I'm so energetic, and yes, I like his company. Yes, I enjoy it. Yes, I look forward, and all those things are true. But I see he has a lazy nature. I'm not willing to accept that. I'm not willing to live the rest of my life with a lazy person. Okay. But if it's your bashert, you may just live the rest of your life without your spouse. And don't go blaming Hashem. If you make a very clearly defined criteria, I have to have this, this, and this, and you will not accept anything but that, guess what? You may not get married. Hashem does not handcuff you to a result. Hashem doesn't demand that you marry somebody. You're given free will. You want to not get married? You cannot get married. And if you meet your bashert, but you decide, I have a laundry list. I need this, this, and this, and I'm not going to compromise. I'm not giving in. You may well pass him or her by. But it's not fair. Why can't I have a perfect spouse? Well, good morning, America. You're not perfect. Neither will your spouse be, nor will any other human being on the planet. Why do you expect perfection? You woke up to a reality that this person that you're going out with has a flaw. Ask any married couple if their spouse doesn't have a flaw. Find me a married couple who won't tell you, either he or she, that the other one has quite a number of flaws. But therefore what? That's part of being a human being. I can deeply love my wife, be tremendously dedicated to her, and still know that there are things that I wish weren't there. But therefore what? That's part of what life's about. Marriage is not this fantasy island of, woo, she's going to be perfect. He's going to be that prince in shining armor, and life will be beautiful and wonderful from now on in. Life has a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Hashem chose you the perfect match, the one together with whom you'll grow, the one together that you're fit for, but you have to play along with the system. And if Hashem brings you that person, passes the paper test, passes the bashert test, but you decide, I could do better, I'm not going to settle, you are very capable and you are able to walk away from your bashert, but then don't go having complaints against Hashem. Hashem, why? I hear it over and over and over. And I want to give you the most simple mashal I know. If a guy weighs 400 pounds, he eats steaks that are as thick as a telephone book, and he smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and he has a heart attack. Hashem, why me? Hashem, why me? Well, fellow, wake up. Don't eat like that. Don't live a lifestyle like that, and you won't have heart condition. But don't go blaming Hashem for your mistakes. Don't go blaming Hashem if you didn't do what you're supposed to do. To stay healthy, you eat right, you exercise, and if you don't, all bets are off. Most likely you're going to suffer. And if you're unwilling to settle, if you have your list of what I need, what I have to have, what I'm not going to give in on, good luck. But just prepared to be single for a good long time. And I don't mean to be harsh. I don't mean to be very severe here. But again, after dealing with so many people who have such carefully laid out lists, they will not compromise. I will not give in. I need this size. I need this shape. I need this amount of money in the bank. I need this education level. I need this. I need this. You don't have a clue. I laugh at it because I deal with married couples all the time, and I know that none of those issues will matter to anybody after they're married. But if you're going to use those criteria as your absolute immutable, I will not budge. Again, I wish you a lot of luck, but don't go saying that you're doing a good ishtadlus. Your good ishtadlus is to trust your Creator to have brought the right one to you. How do you know? You take the paper test, you take the bashert test, and when it just feels right, you say, I trust that Hashem has brought me the right one. But I'm not in love. I'm not madly, passionately infatuated. Therefore what? Some couples are, some couples aren't, but that's not the criteria for selection. The criteria for selection is this the right one? How do you know? It's a very intuitive sense. It's very natural. It's very instinctive. You have to make your decision. Do I trust Hashem? And am I going to use a system, or am I on my own? And if you're on your own and you trust the love system, or if you trust whatever you want to trust in, I wish you a lot of luck. And I have one more step I want to add. Let's assume you're not quite convinced. I know Hashem is very good at running the world, but this is a big deal decision to me, right? I mean, come on, this is the rest of my life. I mean, who I marry is going to determine like everything in my life. So I'm not ready to trust Hashem on this one. Okay, let's say you're holding there. I want to share with you a very, very important observation. As parents, we are invested with a grave responsibility. And ask any parent if they don't take that responsibility very seriously. Of course, the answer is we do. And we're very, very concerned with our children's future. We're extremely careful what type of friends we let them play with when they're little. We're very, very particular in what type of school we enroll them in. Very, very particular where they go in the summer. A parent will do everything in his or her power